In the village of Anolai, nestled between lush green hills and whispering palm trees, lived a young woman named Nia. She was known not just for her beauty, but for the gentle spirit she carried. Her laughter was soft like rainfall, and her kindness stretched to both people and animals alike. Every morning, she would walk the narrow forest path to the river with her clay pot balanced on her head, humming songs taught to her by her grandmother. The river was more than water to Nia, it was a friend. She often whispered to it, tossing in groundnut shells or flowers, offering thanks to the spirits believed to live beneath the surface. Spirits protect the pure, her grandmother once said. Nia believed it. One morning, as the sun stretched its golden fingers across the sky, Nia reached the riverbank and knelt to fill her pot. But as she lifted it, the clay cracked, slipping from her fingers and shattering on the rocks. Water spilled, soaking her wrapper. She sighed, staring at the broken pieces. That pot has served you long, but perhaps it's time for a stronger one, a deep, calm voice said behind her. Startled, Nia turned and saw a man, tall, dark-skinned, dressed in fine linen that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. His eyes held something ancient, something unknowable. Yet his smile was warm. I didn't hear you approach, Nia said, standing quickly, brushing the wet clay from her fingers. I walk lightly. The forest knows me, he replied. He bent and began helping her gather the shards of her broken pot. My name is Obodil. Nia nodded. I'm Nia. Thank you. I've never seen you in this part of the forest. I travel often. But today, the wind brought me here. There was something soothing in the way he spoke, measured, deliberate. Before they parted, he offered to walk her back to the village. Along the way, he asked about her life, her dreams, and her favorite things. He listened carefully, his attention full and undivided. Over the next few days, Obodil began appearing more often. At the market, on the path to the farm, and even near the elder's hut. He always greeted her with the same calm smile, his voice like velvet over stone. He brought gifts, rare fruits, shimmering fabrics, and once, a pot that never leaked, no matter how long she used it. By the second week, the entire village was talking. Who is this man? They whispered. Look at the way he walks. Like a chief. They say he lives in a compound deep in the forest. He must be a spirit. Or a prince. When Obodil finally asked for Nia's hand in marriage, no one objected. Even Mama Ifioma, the village's most stubborn elder, blessed the union. He has a good aura, she said. Strong and clean. The wedding was held under the baobab tree. Drums beat joyfully, and the air was thick with spices, laughter, and blessings. Nia's eyes sparkled with hope as she stepped into her new life. The compound in the forest. Obodil's home stood deep within the woods, hidden behind dense thickets and tall iroko trees. The compound was unlike anything Nia had ever seen. Stone walls carved in strange spirals, and the roof shimmered slightly even when no light touched it. There were no guards, no servants, and yet everything was always clean, always prepared. I do most things myself, Obodil said when she asked. I enjoy peace. The air around the house was always cool, even on hot days. At first, Nia loved the silence, it felt like a soft blanket wrapped around her. But soon, the silence became unsettling. There were no birds near the compound. No crickets at night. No rustling leaves. Just quiet. Too quiet. Sometimes, she would sit outside and watch the trees. They didn't sway like normal trees. Instead, they stood still, as if listening. Nia shook off the feeling. Perhaps she just missed the village noise. Obodil was kind, thoughtful. He cooked with her, massaged her shoulders after long days, and spoke often about his love for nature and stillness. He never shouted, never frowned. But he also never slept deeply. Every night, Nia would drift off to the rhythm of her husband's breathing. But occasionally, she would wake in the early hours and find the bed empty. Obadiah was gone. At first, she assumed he went to relieve himself. But the door was always closed. The locks, strangely crafted bronze hooks, were always still in place. There was no sound of the door opening. No footsteps. And then came the slithering. It began faintly. A slow, scraping sound beneath the floorboards. Like something large moving slowly across the wood. She told herself it was a lizard, maybe a monitor. But one night, the sound grew louder, closer, and stopped directly beneath her bed. She held her breath, frozen in the dark, listening. Then, silence. The next morning, Obadiah was beside her again, smiling. As if nothing had happened. The markings. One afternoon, while sweeping the bedroom, Nia noticed something odd on the wooden floor near the window. A faint, curved trail, like something had been dragged across the surface. When she touched it, the wood felt cold. She bent closer and noticed something glimmering, a small scale, black with a silver sheen. She picked it up with shaking fingers and turned it in the light. "Obadiah," she whispered. That night, she said nothing. But she didn't sleep. She lay stiffly on the bed, pretending to doze. Obadiah's breathing was deep beside her. Hours passed. Then slowly, she felt him shift. He rose without a sound. She heard soft steps as he walked to the door. The strange bronze lock didn't click. She didn't hear the door open. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then she sat up. Obadiah was gone. And the door was still locked from the inside. Her heart raced. She stood, walked slowly to the window, and pulled the curtain aside. Outside, the forest was still. Too still. The days passed slowly in Obadiah's compound, wrapped in a silence that clung to everything like morning mist. But nights, they became stranger with every sunset. Nia had never questioned Obadiah at first. He was always so gentle, so thoughtful. But lately, questions rose like smoke in her mind. Why did he always leave at night? Why did he never eat meat? Why did he forbid her from entering the storage hut behind the house? The forbidden hut. It stood behind the main house, built from ancient stone with a slanted wooden roof. Obadiah always kept it locked, and when Nia once wandered too close, he gently took her hand and said, "There are things inside not meant for your eyes." He smiled when he said it, but something in his voice made her stomach twist. That evening, Nia cooked goat meat stew with bitter leaf, one of his favorites from the stories he told her about his childhood. But when she served it, Obadiah smiled politely and said, "I've already eaten." "You never eat meat," Nia said, more boldly than usual. He looked up from the bowl of yam porridge. "I told you. I made a vow to the forest spirits. No blood shall pass my lips." Something about the way he said blood made her skin prickle. The nightmares began. That night, she had her first dream. She was lying on her side in the bedroom, moonlight spilling through the window, when she felt something cold slide across her leg. She opened her eyes and saw a black snake, large and coiled, slowly wrapping itself around her body. Its scales shimmered like oil in water. Its head rose, and its eyes, those glowing yellow eyes, stared into hers. She woke up screaming. Obadiah sat up beside her immediately. "Nia. What's wrong?" I had a bad dream," she whispered. He stroked her hair gently. "Dreams cannot harm you. Sleep, my love." But the dreams didn't stop. Every night, the same snake. The same eyes. The same feeling, not of danger, but of possession. More signs. One morning, as Nia dressed the bed, she found something beneath her pillow. At first, she thought it was a thread from her wrapper. But when she picked it up, she saw it was a scale, black, thin, and glinting like metal. She froze. Her hands trembled as she carried it to the window. It was warm in her palm. Almost alive. She opened the window to toss it out, then that's when she saw them. Eyes. Two glowing yellow orbs, staring at her from the tree line. Nobody. No shadow. Just the eyes. She gasped and dropped the scale. The eyes blinked once, then vanished into the darkness. A visit from Mama Olia. The next day, Nia sent a messenger boy to call her aunt, Mama Olia, who had raised her after her mother passed. When Mama Olia arrived, she entered the compound with slow, careful steps. She glanced around, her wrinkled face stern, her eyes sharp like the hawk's. "This place is too quiet," she muttered. "Not even crickets sing here." Nia didn't argue. She served her aunt cola nuts and palm wine, then quietly told her everything, the slithering sounds, the nightmares, the forbidden hot, the scale, the eyes. Mama Olia sat in silence, listening. Then she placed her hand gently over Nia's. "My child, there are beings older than time, who walk like men but are not men. We call them Okan Ori Inu, spirits that take husbands or wives for purposes we cannot see." Nia's mouth went dry. "Are you saying I married a spirit?" Mama Olia didn't answer directly. Instead, she stood and walked to the window. She whispered a short prayer and spat twice outside. "You must be careful. Watch him. Do not confront him yet. Let the spirit of truth guide you." Nia nodded slowly. But the fear in her chest was growing, blooming like poison ivy. The cloaked gathering. That night, Nia did not sleep. She lay still, eyes closed, pretending to doze. Just past midnight, she felt Obadiah shift beside her. He rose, moving silently. This time, Nia didn't wait. She rose 5 minutes after he left, wrapped a scarf around her head, and followed him barefoot into the night. The compound air was heavy, like it was holding its breath. The trees parted for Obadiah as he moved, their leaves curling back without a sound. Nia stayed far behind, careful not to step on twigs or rustle the grass. Obadiah reached a clearing deep in the forest, where moonlight poured down like silver. There, 4 hooded figures stood in a circle. Each wore a dark cloth embroidered with silver serpent patterns. They linked hands, heads bowed, and chanted in a language that made Nia's bones feel cold. Obadiah stepped into the center, removed his outer cloth, and raised his arms. The chanting grew louder. Suddenly, his body began to twist. Bones cracked. Skin shimmered. His limbs disappeared. His face stretched and lengthened. In place of Obadiah stood a massive black snake, coiled and gleaming, fangs bared toward the sky. Nia's breath caught in her throat. She had seen those eyes before. The flight. She turned and fled, leaves crunching beneath her feet. She didn't stop until she saw the compound walls. Her heart thundered in her chest. Her wrapper caught on a root, but she yanked it free. She stumbled into the house, slammed the door behind her, and collapsed to the floor, gasping. She didn't know how long she sat there. But when she finally stood and looked toward the hallway, Obadiah was there. Standing in the doorway. No smile. No soft voice. Just those yellow eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because now, she knew the truth. The morning after the forest ritual, the compound felt heavier, like the air itself had thickened. Sunlight still poured in, birds still called from far away, but to Nia, it all felt wrong. Like a dream stretched too thin. Obadiah was already awake when she rose, dressed in a robe made of a strange, silky black cloth. He smiled at her, kissed her forehead, and handed her a steaming cup of herbal tea. "Drink. You look tired." Nia took it slowly, her hands trembling. "Obadiah. You shouldn't go walking in the woods at night, he interrupted, still smiling. It's not safe. Her stomach dropped. He knew. But he didn't scold her. He didn't threaten. He simply turned and walked into the kitchen, whistling a tune she didn't recognize. Between love and terror. Nia didn't sleep that night. And yet, by morning, she felt like she hadn't slept in days. Her body ached. Her limbs were heavy. She could barely lift a basket of yams without feeling faint. She passed a mirror and gasped. Faint silver lines had begun to appear along her forearms and collarbone. They looked almost like scales. Maybe it's heat rash, she told herself. Or the tea. Or stress. But the fear pressed on her like a stone. Still, Obadiah was kind. That part never changed. He rubbed her back when she felt dizzy. He bathed her feet. He made her soup with herbs that dulled the pain, at least for a while. And yet, his eyes no longer pretended. They glowed at night. The forbidden hot opens. Rain fell softly one evening as Nia sat on the veranda. Obadiah was in his study, reading a scroll written in symbols she couldn't understand. A soft creak echoed through the compound. She stood up and followed the sound. The storage hut, the one he always kept locked, was open. Nia hesitated only a second. She stepped inside. The air was cool, too cool. The walls were lined with bones, small ones, large ones, some hanging from strings. At the center of the room stood a low wooden table holding several scrolls, a cracked mirror, and 3 white masks shaped like serpent faces. Her hand shook as she picked up one of the scrolls. The ink was old but still clear. She sounded out the words slowly. The Ekori are the oldest of spirits. Born from Earth's breath and Moon's light, they shed their skins and take human form to continue their bloodlines. Chosen wives carry the essence of new life between the 2 words. Her eyes widened. Carry the essence. She dropped the scroll. Her breathing quickened. Chosen wives. Rituals. Hidden truth. She wasn't just married. She was marked. The escape attempt. That night, while Obadiah snored gently in bed, Nia packed a small bundle, water, dried cassava, and the single pendant her mother gave her as a child. She tiptoed past the bedroom door and down the hall. But when she reached the compound gate, it was gone. She rubbed her eyes. The stone wall now stretched endlessly in every direction. The gate had vanished, replaced by a thick wall of fog that rippled when she reached out to touch it. Behind her, the air seemed to pause. Something hissed. She ran back inside, heart pounding. The floor creaked beneath her feet, not like old wood, but like something breathing. When she turned the corner, she saw the hallway shift, its walls swelled outward, then narrowed. The house was alive. It watched her. She pressed her back to the wall, whispering a prayer, trembling. The house sighed. The revelation. By the next morning, the silver markings on her skin had grown. Thin lines curved along her shoulders and legs, like vines or scales. Obadiah handed her another cup of tea. She didn't drink it. He sat across from her, folding his hands. You look frightened. I found the scrolls, she said, her voice barely a whisper. He didn't flinch. I saw what you are, she continued, eyes watering. I know about the Ekori. Obadiah looked out the window, his voice calm. Do you think I meant to hurt you? I don't know, she said. He turned to face her fully. You were chosen, Nia. Not because you are weak. Not because you are simple. But because you are strong, and your spirit listens. To what? She demanded. To lies. To truths buried beneath the word you know, he said. I loved you before you even met me. I walked your dreams for years. You just didn't see me. Her mouth opened in shock. You've always felt the forest speak, he added. Haven't you wondered why the river whispered only to you? She shook her head, tears falling. I didn't ask for this. No one ever does, he replied. But the bond is made. You carry something inside you now. What do you mean? She whispered. He stood slowly, walked to her side, and placed a hand gently on her stomach. You carry the future of the Ekori. The days blurred into each other like brushstrokes on wet canvas. Nia could no longer tell where her body ended and the strange changes began. Her skin shimmered under the moonlight. Her senses sharpened. She could hear ants crawling in the walls. She could smell things that weren't there. And worst of all, her dreams were becoming prophecies. In her sleep, she saw herself walking through the forest, not with feet, but with a long, gliding body. Her arms disappeared. Her skin peeled away. Scales bloomed across her form like flowers in reverse. She would wake up screaming, her heart beat a drum of terror. The bird that never flew. She had to warn Mama Olia. She had to escape. Obodil was gone again that morning, attending to forest matters, he said. Nia waited until the sun was highest, then took a piece of cloth, tore it into a strip, and wrote a message using crushed charcoal and palm oil. Help me. The house is cursed. He is not what he says. I am changing. Nia. She tied the note around the leg of a white forest bird, one that still visited the trees beyond the mist. She whispered to it, find my aunt. Fly quickly. The bird chirped once and took flight. Nia watched it soar toward the sky, above the compound's unnatural wall. And then, it froze midair, as if struck by lightning. Its wings folded in. It plummeted, lifeless, to the ground. Nia screamed and ran to it. The bird was cold. No wounds. Just dead. She buried it under a tree and cried. The woman at the edge. That night, Nia tossed in her sleep. But the dream she had was different. She was back at the river, its surface calm as glass. A woman stood across from her, tall, cloaked in robes of deep red and green. Her skin was dark, her eyes like molten gold, and her hair silvered with age but flowing like smoke. Who are you? Nia asked. The woman smiled. You called to the spirits. One heard you. My name is Mori. You're real. Yes. And no. I speak to you where spirit meets sleep. And I am coming. The dream ended with a flash of light. At dawn, Nia opened the window and gasped. At the edge of the forest, just beyond the invisible wall, stood the same woman from her dream, Mori. She didn't speak. She only raised her arm, and from the folds of her robe a calabash appeared, glowing softly. Then she vanished. Nia blinked. When she looked down, the calabash was on her windowsill. A legacy revealed. Inside the calabash was thick, golden oil, and a rolled-up leaf with writing etched in charcoal. You were never only human. The forest knows its children. Your blood sings the songs of spirits, your mother, your grandmother before her. The Ekori were drawn to that light. Use this oil. Speak this chant. Break the bond before it consumes your flesh. Mori. Nia's hands trembled as she read the chant, which began. Ori Aina, break the chain. Let flesh return. Let spirit fall. She looked in the mirror. Her face was still hers, but not quite. Her eyes had a slight glimmer now. Her pupils sometimes shifted to slits in the dark. Preparing for the end. She began to gather what she could, salt, white cloth, dried herbs. She memorized the chant, repeated it under her breath 100 times. She stayed awake for 3 nights straight, watching Obodil move through the house with his quiet grace. He never asked why she avoided him. He only watched her with those golden eyes. One evening, As the sun dipped low and the trees turned the color of rust, Obodil entered the room wearing a robe covered in serpent symbols. "It is time," he said. "The cycle completes with the full moon." "What cycle?" she asked, voice shaking. "You see. You feel it. You're not what you were, Nia. You're becoming." She clenched her fist beneath the table. "Not if I break it first," she thought. The true form of a husband. That night, Nia lit 3 candles, one in each corner of the room. She poured the sacred oil in a circle around her bed. She tied white cloth around her waist and placed the scroll before her. The moon was full. Outside, the air grew heavy, dense. The walls of the house moaned. The floor hissed like a distant whisper. Then the door creaked open. Obodil entered. But it was no longer the man she once knew. His skin had turned silver black, shimmering like wet stone. His arms bore serpent scales, his fingers ending in dark claws. His eyes glowed fiercely, and his smile was ancient. He stood at the threshold, the moonlight behind him. "I know what you're doing," he said. "But you don't have to." Nia stepped back. "What am I to you?" Obodil stepped forward, unafraid of the oil circle. "You are the bridge. Between spirit and flesh. Between our world and yours." "I didn't choose this," she said, her voice cracking. "No," he whispered, "but your blood did." He dropped to his knees before her, his form massive and powerful. The floor beneath him rippled like water. "Stay with me, Nia," he said softly. "Rule beside me. We can birth a new era. You don't know what it means to be what you are yet, but I can teach you. No more pain. No more fear." Tears welled in her eyes. Her body trembled. And yet, her fingers clutched the chant scroll tighter. Because even in this moment, she could feel the change beginning. Nia stood trembling within the circle of sacred oil, her hands damp with sweat, her lips pressed shut as she clutched the scroll to her chest. Obodil knelt before her, not in dominance but in desperation. His eyes, those once gentle, now glowing with ancient sorrow, searched hers for mercy. "You don't understand what you are, Nia," he said. His voice was still soft, but it echoed strangely in the room, as if coming from both man and serpent. "You were born for more than human worries and fleeting breath. You were meant to become." Nia's voice cracked as she whispered, "I was meant to be free." Obodil closed his eyes. The house groaned around them. The walls pulsed, the ceiling shimmered with ghostly scales, and the floor hissed like a nest of serpents stirring in rage. She began to chant. "Ori Aina, break the chain. Let flesh return, let spirit fall. I am not yours. I am mine. Return what was taken. Let the bond be broken." Her voice grew louder with every word, the sacred words unraveling the invisible cords binding her soul to the darkness. The collapse. Obodil's body trembled violently. His arms jerked, his claws scraped the floor, and his form twisted between man and snake. He howled, not in rage, but in pain. "No," he cried, reaching toward her. "You don't have to do this. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted someone who could see me." But the light burst from the calabash like a star had been born in the room. It surged up the walls, across the floor, through the roof, turning the air golden. The house screamed. The walls split open, bleeding silver mist. The floor cracked as though 1,000 serpents were riding underneath it, now desperate to escape. All around her, snake spirits shrieked. Voices without bodies, fading into the wind. The masks in the hut shattered. The bones turned to dust. Obodil collapsed, his form shuddering one final time before flickering into a fading silhouette, half man, half snake, then falling forward onto the floor. And then, he was gone. Returned to the world of the living. Nia woke hours later to the smell of smoke and the sound of birds. For the first time in weeks, real birds. The compound had vanished. She was lying in the grass at the forest edge. A warm hand touched her shoulder. Nia. She opened her eyes and saw Mori, cloaked in red and green, her golden eyes glowing softly. You did well, child, the forest priestess said. You have broken the chain. Is it over? Nia asked, barely able to speak. Mori nodded. But what was I? What am I? You are what your mothers were. A child of two realms. Spirit and flesh. But unlike the others, you chose freedom. Healing and becoming. Back in the village, Nia was welcomed with cautious joy. Mama Olia wept when she saw her. My child, she whispered, holding Nia close. You came back to us. Nia's skin slowly returned to its natural hue, the shimmer of scales fading. The strange silver lines disappeared within days. Her body healed. The dizzy spell stopped. But something inside her had changed. She could hear the voices of birds more clearly now, not just chirps, but meaning. When she closed her eyes, she could see flashes of people's dreams. She felt when spirits passed by at night. The elders called it a gift. The children called her Nia Desia. The forest. It simply called her home. The guardian of Anolai. Nia never married again. Instead, she built a small hut on the edge of the village, surrounded by herbs, charms, and flowers. People came to her in secret to ask about dreams, illnesses, and things that moved in the dark. She never turned anyone away. And every so often, on nights when the wind was still and the moon full, she would light a single candle by her window. And whisper, Obodil, I hope you found your peace. She never hated him. He had loved her, in his way. But some things, she knew now, were not meant to mix. Final words. Some say love can tame a monster. But some monsters were never meant to love at all. White heavy checkmark the end.